Could you trust a love that came with one rule? Never look at the face of the person who loves you. Or maybe the better question is this: can love survive on trust alone? The moment you feel the need to check, to make sure, to see proof with your own eyes. Does that mean love is already breaking? Or does it happen because the love feels so precious, so easy to lose, that in the end you have to look? There is an old myth about Eros and Psyche that still hits a nerve today. A person falls in love, but that love comes with one condition. You can feel this person beside you. You can hear their voice. You can share the same breath in the dark. But you must not look. Not at their face. Not at who they are. Is that romantic? Or is it a very carefully built kind of fear? The first time I heard this story, it did not feel romantic to me. It felt a little suffocating. Love is supposed to be the closest bond we have, and yet in this story, the most important truth is missing. Psyche is asked to love someone without knowing who he is. She has warmth, closeness, desire, but not certainty. And if you think about it, many of us know that feeling. Is this person being honest with me? Do they really love me? Is there something everyone can see except me? Sometimes the urge to check comes from the same place as love. And sometimes the very thing we do to protect a relationship is what ends up breaking it. In the myth, Psyche is so beautiful that her beauty becomes a problem. Beauty in myths often looks like a gift, but here it works more like a curse. People gather just to look at her. They admire her. They almost worship her. And that becomes dangerous, because those feelings should belong to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Aphrodite cannot bear it. She tells her son Eros to punish Psyche, make her fall in love with something awful, something beneath her, something she could never want. But this is the point where the story turns. Eros goes to carry out the punishment, and he falls in love with Psyche himself. I have always found that moment strangely human. A plan falls apart because of feeling. Someone goes to wound another person and ends up wounded first. Love rarely follows a plan. It is the least controlled emotion we have. It breaks structure. It ruins orders. It changes the one who thought they were in charge. Psyche is taken to a lonely mountaintop because an oracle has said she is meant for a terrible husband. Her family is afraid. They weep for her. She is sent away almost like an offering. And then, just when the story seems ready to become pure terror, the air changes. The wind lifts her and carries her gently away. She wakes in a beautiful palace. Invisible hands open doors. Unseen voices welcome her. Everything is soft, rich, almost dreamlike. And when night comes, her husband arrives. But he gives her one rule: do not look at me. Do not try to know who I am. Just trust me. At first, that can sound almost beautiful, as if the story is saying appearances do not matter, as if love is deeper than sight, as if trust matters more than proof. And yes, many people read it that way. But the longer you sit with it, the stranger it becomes. Psyche is given love, but she is denied knowledge. She is cherished, but kept in the dark. She has intimacy, but not clarity. She has tenderness, but not transparency. And to me, this is where the myth stops being just a love story and becomes something sharper. It becomes a story about love and fear living in the same room. Was Psyche happy? For a while, maybe she was. She had a kind voice. She had comfort. She had someone who came to her each night with love. But during the day, she was alone. And if you picture that for a moment, it becomes easier to understand her. Imagine spending your life beside someone and never being allowed to know the most basic truth about them. Is this relationship what I think it is? Am I loved? Why am I not allowed to see? Why would someone who loves me stay hidden? That is how doubt grows. Quietly, slowly. What first feels mysterious can start to feel like distance. What first feels special can start to feel like a wall. And doubt rarely grows by itself. It grows faster when another voice feeds it. Psyche's sisters come to visit. They do not bless her happiness. They poison it. They tell her the being who visits her at night may be a monster. They tell her that a love which hides its face may not be love at all. And this part feels painfully familiar. Many of us know what it is like to hear another person's fear speak louder than our own experience. A friend's warning, a family member's suspicion, one comment that gets under your skin. Sometimes the warmth you felt with your own heart is no match for one sharp sentence from someone else. Psyche begins to waver. That, to me, is one of the most human moments in the whole story. So many stories want their heroes to trust themselves with perfect strength. But people are not like that. The more we care, the more fragile we become. Did I read this right? Am I being fooled? Is this happiness too good to last? Psyche cannot shake the fear. So she makes a choice. She hides a lamp and a blade. If the one beside her is a monster, she will protect herself. If not, she will finally know. What a complicated heart that must have taken love, fear, doubt, hope, self-protection, all at once. And then comes the most beautiful and tragic scene in the myth. In the middle of the night, Psyche slowly rises from bed. Her hands must have been shaking. Her heart must have been pounding. She lifts the lamp, and the light pushes back the dark. And then she sees him. Not a monster, not some nightmare waiting to swallow her whole. She sees Eros, radiant and impossibly beautiful. The god of love himself, the one who was sent to punish her. And fell in love instead. In that instant, what did she feel? Relief? Wonder? Gratitude? Probably all of it at once. And then the story turns again. A drop of hot oil falls from the lamp. It lands on Eros. He wakes. He sees her looking at him. He sees that she could not trust him without proof. And he leaves. It is such a short moment, but it carries so much weight. This love does not break because it was false. It breaks even though both of them were sincere. And that may be why the scene hurts so much. Sometimes what destroys a relationship is not cruelty, not betrayal in the obvious sense. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is the need to know right now. Sometimes it is the silence that was never explained. People often judge Psyche for this part. Why could she not wait? Why did she break the rule? But I cannot blame her so easily. Was she wrong, or was she simply human? What she wanted was not something extravagant. She wanted to know who the person beside her was. She wanted truth inside love. And that is not a selfish desire. Wanting to see the face of the one you love is not some shallow act. It may be the most natural thing in the world. Love can begin in mystery, but it cannot live there forever. If you want a bond to last, you have to let it become visible. You have to let it be known. At the same time, I can understand Eros too. For the first time, he was not following command but feeling. He loved her by choice. And the most vulnerable part of him, the part not yet ready to stand fully in the light, was the very part she reached for. To him, her doubt may have felt like a rejection of the love itself. That is why this myth does not fit neatly into right and wrong. Psyche's need for certainty is human. Eros's hurt is human. And that is exactly why the story lasts. It is not about one villain ruining everything. It is about two beings who love each other and still cannot carry each other's fear. After that, Psyche is forced into a series of trials. Many people treat this part like a punishment sequence and move on. But I think this is where Psyche truly becomes the center of the story. Falling in love is something two people can do together. Living through loss is something you do alone. She is asked to sort impossible piles of grain, to gather wool from dangerous golden sheep, to journey down into the world below. On the surface, these are fantasy tasks. But emotionally, they feel very close to ordinary life. People often grow the most not while being loved, but after losing something they thought they could not live without. You wake up and go on anyway. You cry and still do what must be done. You carry an ache through the day and keep moving. That is what Psyche's trials feel like to me. Not just magic tasks, but the shape of grief. The shape of endurance. The last task may be the most revealing of all. She is told to bring back a box of beauty. But in the end, she opens it. And once again, The myth asks the same question in a new form. Why do people open what they were told not to open? I do not think it is just curiosity. I think people break rules when fear convinces them they are lacking something. When they feel that if they could just get one more thing, one more answer, one more advantage, everything might be saved. Maybe Psyche thinks that if she becomes even more beautiful, Eros will love her again. Maybe she thinks that if she can improve herself just a little more, what was lost can return. But the box does not contain beauty. It contains a deep sleep. That part feels cruel in a way that is painfully familiar. The desire to become perfect often drains the life out of us. The more desperately we try to become enough, the more empty we can feel. And yet the story does not end there. Eros comes back, not because the wound never mattered, but because love remained even after the wound. He wakes Psyche, and at last they are allowed to stand side by side in the open. Psyche is no longer someone loved only in darkness. She has passed through sorrow, labor, longing, and change. She knows what love costs now. She knows what fear can do. And the love she receives at the end is no longer just a dreamlike thrill. It has gone through pain, patience, and forgiveness. That, to me, is why this myth is beautiful. Not simply because it ends well, but because it refuses to treat love as a pure feeling untouched by struggle. Love is never just warmth. Inside it, there is always the wish to trust and the urge to know. There is always the wish to be seen and the fear of being fully seen. Human beings are afraid to reveal themselves completely, but they also suffer when the one they love stays hidden too long. In the end, love reveals the shape of our fear. It shows us how much mystery we can bear in another person, and how much we ask them to bear in us. That is why this story never feels limited to romance. It reaches further than that. It touches friendship, family, trust, shame, even the parts of ourselves we do not want to face. Because in one way or another, most of us know what it means to live with unanswered questions. To want proof, to want reassurance, to want the light turned on. Maybe you know that feeling too. The late night urge to check your phone one more time. The flood of thoughts that comes when a reply is late. The way one small silence can start to feel bigger than all the kindness that came before it. In that sense, all of us are a little like Psyche. We are loved, but still afraid. We get afraid, so we check. And sometimes what we find does not calm us at all. At the same time, many of us are also a little like Eros. We want to be trusted, even while there are still parts of us we have not brought into the light. We feel hurt when someone doubts us. We feel exposed when they reach for the truth before we are ready to show it. That is why this old myth still feels so alive as a myth. It is not only about gods and impossible tasks. It is about how people meet each other. It is about what love asks of us, and what fear makes us do. What stays with me most is this. The story does not ask us to choose between trust and truth, as if one must destroy the other. It asks something harder. It asks whether love can grow only when both are present. Trust matters, but so does being willing to be known. Psyche may not have wanted mere proof. She may have wanted a love that could survive the light. And Eros may not have wanted control. He may have wanted someone who could hold his hidden self with care. That is why I do not hear this myth as a warning against curiosity. I hear it as a question about what mature love requires. Maybe truly human love needs two things at once: the courage to trust what you cannot fully see yet, and the courage to become visible before the person who loves you. To me, that is the deepest gift this myth offers. It takes an old story about gods and turns it into a quiet question about all relationships. How much of another person's mystery can we live with? And how much of our own hidden self are we willing to reveal? Maybe the most common thing that breaks love is not deception, but fear. Fear of losing the other person. Fear of not being enough. Fear that makes us hold tighter, ask harder, search further, until fear grows bigger than love itself. But there is another truth here too. A love that stays forever in darkness cannot keep breathing. A love that only says trust me, but never lets itself be seen, cannot ask for that forever. Love may begin in shadow, but if it is going to survive, sooner or later it has to step into the light. So this is how I want to remember Psyche, not as someone who ruined love, but as someone who learned why love needs truth. And this is how I want to remember Eros, not only as a wounded god, but as someone who shows that love can return even after hurt. And maybe that is why this myth still reaches us, because when we love someone, we move back and forth between both of them. We want to trust, but we also want to see. We want to know, but we are afraid to lose what we know. If you are loving someone right now, maybe this story leaves you with one question. Are you checking because you are protecting love? Or are you testing it because fear has gotten louder than trust? And if you are asking someone else to trust you, are you also willing to show them the face they are being asked to love? Love can look blind at first, but what saves it in the end may not be closing our eyes. It may be finding the courage to let ourselves be seen, and to keep looking. Even when the light is frightening. The night Psyche lifted that lamp was the night the dream broke. But it may also have been the night love stopped being fantasy and began the long journey towards something deeper. Maybe our own relationships are like that too. At some point, the light has to come on. And when it does, that is when we learn what remains. A love that begins with the rule, do not look, only becomes complete when two people can finally face each other. That is why I do not think this is just a myth about forbidden love. I think it is a myth about growing up inside love, about learning how to trust, about learning how to be known. And that is exactly why it still feels so beautiful, and why it still hurts.